Hello, this is Chris Pickard, here to talk to you today about heart disease. Now, why would I want to speak about heart disease when I'm not a medical doctor? Well, it's primarily because with heart disease, there's the actual underlying causes of the problem in the first place. And there is a huge amount of things that medical doctors just don't have the time to investigate, and then they don't have the time to treat. So today I'm going to be just talking about blood pressure, high blood pressure. Now, high blood pressure, first of all, the first most important thing to do is work out, why do you have high blood pressure in the first place? Well, the reason that blood pressure goes up as part of our normal physiological mechanisms is because it's part of our fight and flight reflex. That basically means that if we're attacked and we need to basically have the energy in our muscles to either run away or to fight something. And it's the actual effect of doing the exercise, the physical motions, that burns off all of the stress hormones, brings everything down, and then brings blood pressure back down to normal levels. This is why exercise is so important and has an effect on temporarily lowering chronic high blood pressure. It's very important though that if you have a lot of heart problems, please don't start an exercise program if you've not done one before without consulting your healthcare specialist. So first thing, exercise, because it shuts off that whole stress response. Now the next thing to really look at is what perpetuates these chronic stress problems in most people today, and that's mental stress. So really you've got to look at things that decrease how you perceive these threats, how you perceive these stresses, and you start doing things to decrease the stress response in your body. So there are things like breathing techniques, gentle exercise like Tai Chi and yoga can really help. And then there's cognitive behavioral therapy. There's lots of different ways to try and change your interpretation of the situation so it becomes non-stressful to you, and then things you can do to decrease stress in your body. Another problem that happens, let's look at the numbers actually. Let's look at the numbers. There are two parts to the blood pressure. There's the higher part, the systolic blood pressure, and the lower part, the diastolic blood pressure. Now ideally, the upper one should be 120 when you're an adult, and the lower one should be 80, or thereabouts. Now when I graduated 21 years ago from college and went into health, it was expected that the lower one could get up to about 90 to 95 before medical doctors would start treating it with drugs. And the upper one could be 100 plus your age, and that was normal. But now we know that really it is actually best to keep it at 120 over 80, or at least the ratio seems to be also very important, of 3 to 2. That also seems to be quite critical. And when you start messing around with it, and if your blood pressure pills are messing around with that ratio, if it doesn't stay at 3 to 2, it's possibly not a good sign. So please talk to your doctor about the ratios as well. So now if the higher one, the one that should be 120, if that goes over it, that does increase your risks of stroke and also of stable angina. The lower one, the 81, if that goes up, that increases your chances of abdominal aortic aneurysm. So different parts of your blood pressure mean different things. So they should get your doctor to do different treatments depending on which part of your blood pressure is higher. But of course the real treatment is not the drugs, because if the drugs were actually treating the blood pressure, then you take the blood pressure pills, you take them for a few days, just like antibiotics, and then you stop taking them and the blood pressure would stay away. Now the real answer is finding that cause, finding the cause of the stress, doing things to lower the stress. However, it's not just about stress. We now also realize that a lot of problems are due to dehydration. We're just simply not getting enough water in our body in the form of H2O, and then it's not being converted, and this is still a bit theoretical, into H3O2. Now you might have already seen my videos on hydration. If you haven't, go back and watch them, because this explains how water in the body actually gets turned into a gel and it starts lining the blood vessels and actually allows for blood to actually smoothly go through it, so decreasing blood pressure. And there are ways to do it, so watch the videos on hydration that I've done. It also plays a part in what's called the nitric oxide cycle. Nitric oxide is something that our arteries have to actually help dilate them to again decrease blood pressure. So there's a lot of things, that's the NOO cycle. No, you don't want to have too lower levels of certain types of nitric oxide, and there are certain things that you can take to really help improve that nitric oxide cycle. So we're going into micronutrients, which should have been in there somewhere. It's thought, if you haven't seen my first video on heart disease, it talks about how heart disease may actually be nothing more, the arteriosclerosis may actually be nothing more than a chronic form of scurvy. And they've also found that vitamin C, which treats scurvy, helps decrease heart disease and arteriosclerosis. It also helps lower blood pressure. 500 milligrams a day for about a month can lower your blood pressure. But that's not the only nutrient. The other nutrients we know that are effective and can be effective and can be the cause is magnesium. Magnesium is something that's used up in stress, and we also need magnesium to keep our blood pressure lower. So very often magnesium supplementation with vitamin C can help. There's something even more critical though, and that's something called coenzyme Q10. And even TV's Dr. Chris Steele is a big proponent, I believe, of coenzyme Q10. And studies have shown that as little as 60 milligrams twice a day for a few weeks can lower your blood pressure. But what they found at the really high doses, 600 milligrams a day of coenzyme Q10, they found that over the course of 6 months, 97% of participants were able to come off of their blood pressure medication. Now this is annoying because things like statin drugs, and I believe some blood pressure drugs and diabetic drugs, can all interfere and cause your coenzyme Q10 levels to crash. I think paracetamol might as well. So a lot of the commonly safe drugs that you actually be given can actually be driving down, including the high blood pressure drugs, can actually be driving down the thing that is actually the cause of your high blood pressure, a lack of coenzyme Q10. So it's very important to take that for most people. So again, before taking micronutrients, if you've got serious heart disease, if you've got serious health problems, please consult a healthcare specialist before taking any of these things. Apart from water. Water in the form of especially fresh fruits and vegetables, uncooked, raw, because the water in them is in the right form to actually line the artery walls. Drinking water is fine. Now there's two other parts of your body that can be related to high blood pressure. And one is your neck. Now when you're stressed and tense, you do this, and this tenses up your muscles here, and this has a feedback into your head telling you you're stressed. So what happens? Your blood pressure goes up. And I find a lot of people who aren't necessarily stressful people, they're not overweight, they seem to be eating fairly healthy, but they have for some reason very, very stiff necks. Sometimes when you start actually working on their necks, even if it's completely non-painful necks, and you start getting their neck freed up, massaging their neck, stretching, mobilization, blood pressure can decrease. And there are some studies that have shown indeed there is a link between neck tension and blood pressure. So it's something that's worth getting checked out. It's not going to be the cause of everybody's blood pressure problems by a long way, but it could be your problem. And then finally, and this is not controversial at all, is waist size. Every pound of fat you have means you've got an extra 7 miles of blood vessels that your heart has to pump blood through. And 5 pounds of fat is enough blood vessels for it to cause a serious difference to your blood pressure. So if you've got a big waist and you've got high blood pressure, possibly the best way to decrease your blood pressure is changing your diet, exercising more, decreasing that waist. And we here at Body in Balance have got some amazing ways to really help you burn fat and get that belly down very quickly, very safely, very effectively, and with little fuss. You might not even have to change your diet. It may just be like small tweaks about how you're eating. And the actual ratio of your waist to your hips, you can't see my hips at the moment, the actual ratio of waist to hips is one of the biggest predictors of heart disease and overall mortality. If your waist is bigger than your hips, that is not good. Even if you're normal weight. So if you're very thin and slim, but you've got, a big belly, that's not good for your health. You need to get rid of that belly. You need to work on that, and we can help you. So please, if you've got a big waist, give us a call on 01707 662 704. Or if you'd like to be put in contact with a really good heart specialist, a medical doctor, cardiologist that is, then again, give us a call. We'll put you in contact with someone to help you. Okay, be well everyone, and please share this video with anyone you know who's got heart disease, because this could save lives.